It's Friday, March 8th, 2024, the year of the Lord. And this is the, well, let's count, 16th episode of Anytime with Ken and Alden. I am the voice of Ken. That is the face of Alden Diaz. We're here. Oh, I got the wrong. There we go. Boom, boom. Make our faces huge.
That's all right. We're versatile.
All right.
We come in so many different formats.
We're versatile.
I am the face of Alden, and to the chagrin of many, also the voice of Alden.
Look, man,
consistency.
We both have our fans. We both have our detractors. We both have our legitimate criticism and critiques friends, and then we just have some haters. Not even on this channel, just for years. You live on the internet, you're gonna have it, and I'm trying to get better at letting that go, Alden.
Yeah, I think it's something that we all have to work on, especially because we can get so used to the lifestyle of this that we're like, oh, that's just a part of it. The grudges are a part of it, and it's like they don't really need to be. I actually reminisced last night. Funny that we bring this up about the first time. Yes, exactly. The first time that I experienced targeted online "we hate this guy," and it was 11 years ago now. It was over nothing, as usual.
Were you in high school? What did you do?
What did
you do, Alden?
I was a junior or early senior because I'm class of 14. We're in the middle of planning my reunion right now, which is a pain in the ass.
My 30th is set. Okay, we'll update that.
30th set. I want to go with you. I want to go with you to yours.
This is my son.
They'll be like, well, he has the same energy. It's definitely the same energy. That has not changed.
I kind of want to do that.
But yeah, I got flamed 11 years ago for after Man of Steel, a film directed by a man who's been making the rounds. And we knew Batman was coming. Kid Alden was like, this is who I would cast as every single Batman and whatever character. Made a whole album, did a whole thing, and went viral. And man, people online.
Yeah, well, 11 years ago, it was around the time we were really picking up speed with the Schmoes Know podcast 2013 range. 2012, I started there. Obviously knew those cats way before, but yeah, that was the height of let's think none of this really matters to the greater social picture of the world. Let's just yell about Batman. Let's just create sins, ding, of all the things that we're supposed to.
Yeah, who doesn't love those?
Who doesn't love those?
Profitable.
I did at one point. When they first started out, I was like, this is great, this is fun. And I don't even think they set out to destroy a lot of discussion and media literacy. No. I don't really think, I've met those guys. Jeremy wasn't, the other guy, I think his name was Chris, sweetheart of a dude. I just think they love movies. And then that's kind of what happens. You don't realize some of the damage that you might be starting.
Yeah, now I am become memes, destroyer of discourse, I guess. Yeah, it becomes a whole thing. It's just, we look back and we're like, how did we get here? What are we doing? And here we are, continuing to do it on this show.
Yes, housekeeping as we like to do. By the way, thanks for watching, tuning in live. We got folks like Laserbolt, Kingsport Cowles on his best behavior. He promises Star Wars in the Galaxies here as well. You know all the real names of these people I haven't met yet in real life, though. Star Wars in Galaxies who?
That's Eli.
Eli.
That is Eli, who also runs the trivia league that we play in, the Star Wars League. So Eli, so you made a cameo in that.
I did.
A cameo in the real sense of the world.
Promo. Yeah, I cut a pretty damn good promo.
You did. You have not missed a step. When are you going into the hall? I saw Paul Heyman's going in. Bull Nakano's going in. Bull
Nakano's a great choice. Underrated over here in the States for most of her career, I would say. Tex Tunney did go into the MPW Ring of Fame or whatever we did for the 200 people in Simi Valley who remember me as Tex Tunney.
Hell yeah. Can I also just say, on that note, before we dive into the real world news, in the semi-real world of wrestling, this is the first show post-Sting, post the career of Steve Borden's Sting. And, oh, buddy, he went out in a war, and it was a feel-good thing. And, at some point I want to do an episode talking about, like, the best old folks to do it. You know, the best long runs, like of
Absolutely.
anything.
Absolutely.
And I loved it, respected it. Really, really lots of fun. So
Yeah,
cheers
no,
to
I was fascinated with your thoughts on it, everything. So some of your posts about it. I'm a Sting admirer. I was never a Sting guy back in the day, but he was in the other Fed, but really I loved it the way they did it. Not super familiar with it, but yeah, we can talk about that. As always, we want to remind you, if you're watching here live, great. If you're watching later, leave a comment that you're part of the later crew. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel as we grow it out. This section always comes with some apologies about my news segment's been on hiatus unintentionally because, sometimes you start some work. I'm working for a new YouTube channel or working with a channel that's been around a bit, but new for me. And I want to make sure I'm doing right. Alden, when you get some work, you got to make sure you put a little effort into it, I hear.
Absolutely.
That's what Republican Katie Britt would tell me.
That's what you have to put some effort in. Yeah. And contrary to the way it may seem, it takes a lot of money to maintain this. These guys, this is a top dollar operation. Yeah, no, I mean, it's the reality. I mean, like, we need funds to do the other stuff so that the other stuff can make funds until we die.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Look, there's no greater song than Bittersweet Symphony by the Verb.
Yes.
You're slave to the money, then you die. You don't need to write songs after that, even though I do try. Kingsport Cal says, it's okay, Ken. Now I watch those unsubscribe. Cal, I'm going to fly out to Kingsport, Tennessee, and I'm gonna yell at you, but then also have some rice and beans down at that Cheddar's. Also, want to remind you, we do have a podcast feed. If you want to take us with you on the go, you can find that wherever podcasts go. There is, I think, I have to double check. Maybe I'll check right now live on air. There was just an issue getting us to Apple. The thing where most people listen to the podcast still, despite there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't listen to Apple. Great, you don't. 93% of people do. So I think we're having trouble getting on there, but we're on wherever you podcast your podcasts and all that fun stuff. There you go. I want to highlight some stuff up top too, Alden, because I always leave this to the end of the show, and it doesn't serve me well. Coming up in early April 6th, Mark Ellis and I will be in Boston at the Rockwell doing stand-up comedy, doing the bits, the yucks, as we always tease him used to back in the days on the Schmoes. It's going to be a good show. We're also there at another show earlier in the week on Justine Marino's show. You can check her channel for that, her YouTube or website for that, Web Zone. I'm just making up words. But anyways, tickets are on my website or Mark's website there. So see y'all soon. Alden, how are you? And we're almost ready to really dive in.
Yeah, I'm not going to be live in Boston, but I have seen Ken live before, and I would like it even if I wasn't his friend. It's a very good show. I've never seen Mark, though, which is weird because it's like I've been adjacent to where he's done it more than once. I've never got to see Mark. I've seen you and Joseph, great show in London. But your material obviously is always in a constant state of growth. And so it's like, even from London to now, I'm sure it's considerably different.
It's wildly different. Some of it's the same. The attitude's the same. But yeah, the Live in the Harrison Pub audio special I released, the album, is doesn't resemble what I do now. So it's fun. I'm constantly evolving. I want to, that's what I learned in pro wrestling, and you want to find who you are, find your voice, but always push yourself to move forward. So it's been fun. Yeah, you should see Mark. I'll tell you what. When Nikki Kumar finally moves out here, comes back, I should say, and settles, one of the first things I'm doing is taking him to the Comedy Store. And we're going to have some fun. He's going to see Mark live in person, and, we'll send some pictures to you.
Nikki Kumar used to do the club scene back in the day.
So maybe I'll get him into it.
He's been up. He's gone up. I've seen the man on the flyers back in his glory days.
Yeah. There we go. All right, we're going to get into our first segment so we can get going today, not have a super long, lingering conversation because we have some stuff to get to. But we always begin, Alden, by asking this simple question that you provide the answers to. What Ben Affleck are we?
Today, for the first time in the history, see it again, see Ben Affleck again for the first time. We are going to do a double Affleck crazy, featuring cameos from other people.
Double Affleck all the way.
Yeah, wow, that's a reference that I have not heard. that was like a top shelf vintage reference.
Still new to me.
Internet memes, man. I love that. That's like meme lore. So it's Oscar weekend, and as you know from clicking on the episode, which by the way, leave a little like if you are watching live. We are in Oscar weekend, and we're going to be discussing the Oscars, the importance of the Oscars, and all awards in art. Do they matter? Do they not? Well, they I can tell you a spoiler for that conversation. They certainly matter to the winners, and Ben Affleck has won twice in different categories, neither of them acting, which is which is just so odd for a career actor. And here he is in his first win. For the benefit of the podcast listeners, this is young Ben and Matt winning the original screenplay award for Good Will Hunting.
Wow.
Which was a great one, a really joyous, you could feel the youthful energy, Robin Williams, rest his soul, cheering and laughing in the front, like great stuff. So that's the first one. If you've never watched that speech, definitely go back and watch it.
What is that? 99, right? That would have been the 98 awards in early 1999, right?
I want to say it's a year earlier.
Earlier.
Goodwill, yeah, it's the 98 awards. It's the 98 show for 97 season. For 97 films. 1997, so this got them the writing Oscar, and it got Robin Williams his supporting after about 4 nominations, I want to say.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant in it, and there's a little bit of a historical context thing, with the thanking of Harvey Weinstein, but it was 97. This was at the height of his power, and no one was talking about that stuff.
What are you gonna do? Yeah.
And then Affleck 2, Electric Boogaloo, the ability to come up and get snubbed for director, snubbed for actor, and get Best Picture. Right. This was his speech that got a little bit of infamy amongst the married community because he talked about how marriages work in this, and in a wholesome way, and it raises conversations that awards people have all the time of like, how can you get the Best Picture and not get these other ones, at least nominations? So it's interesting. There's a lot of politicking. You got Clooney back there for producer, and then Academy Award winner Chris Terrio, which I love referring to him as that because people love to slap him. They love to slap him, but he was here for picture, and he had won his own category earlier in the night.
I actually really love Argo. I forgot Terrio. He looked a little different by the time he was writing for Rise of Skywalker. Who is the one leading on Terrio? Bring that photo back up. Who?
Terrio is
in the red dress.
I'm not 100% sure.
On quick look, I thought it was Layla from the WWE from about 10 years ago.
Right? Yeah,
it does
kind of
look like her. Yeah.
It does.
No disrespect to the person there. I don't know who you are, but
Terrio,
Argo, fuck yourself, man.
Argo, fuck yourself. Great movie.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. There you are. Big flashback on that. That's why I was trying to clarify the year. I wasn't even in LA yet, but I had those Matt Damon bangs, man. I had them.
Oh, yeah?
I had them. I didn't have them in a style. Mine was, as I said before, I brought in the CD booklet of Oasis's Definitely Maybe, brought it to my hairstylist, pointed at Noel Gallagher and said, that please. And at the time, I had hair down to my belt. And it worked for until I walked out of the salon, and then my hair just kept doing this little split right here, so I looked like Matt Damon.
I love that. Those like bangs with some bounce on the 90s guys, like the Jonathan Taylor Thomases of the world. Like that was definitely we do need photo evidence, as Lauren Romo in the comments. Yeah, if you want to share those, Ken.
All right.
At any time on air. At any time on air, you'll get to see young Ken.
Yeah. I'll dig them up. There might be some buried in my Facebook feed. Wonderful. Bringing back memories of Good Will Hunting times of just them winning the top of the world, guys. All right, we're going to dive into a sweep of news. Like I said, not doing the news segment here, but we do want to address some of the news. And there's a lot of, as always, you can focus on a lot of different things, most of them horrible. But the State of the Union is dominating, and we'll start the conversation. We're not spending a ton of time on this, Alden. I think you and I, though we are of different ages and perhaps generations, is fair to say, too, and we are always in the same ballpark, even if we disagree on some little minor points, which is the point of life, finding connections with those around you. We do kind of agree, and I'll say this, I'll start the bidding off with this. As politically involved and aware as I have become over the years from someone who was not, Still a way to go. I'm not an expert. I'm more in tune and believe you should be in tune with this world. This is one of the last areas that I kind of consider myself cynical about. And I think cynicism is dangerous when it comes to politics, social issues in the world. But I also understand it. For me, the State of the Union, no matter who's up there, for years has been not a worked shoot, to use pro wrestling terms, but it's a little bit of a pro wrestling promo that has only gotten worse, where everyone's going to do what's expected. I think even when there's some real things or some valuable things in it, and I do believe there were some real valuable things said last night, but there's also things that you would expect. Also things that are just headline grabbers, and you're going to have the standing ovations. You're going to have the Mike Johnson eye rolls. You're going to have Marjorie Taylor Greene being what she is. It's the whole thing, and I think it's easy to get cynical on it, and I understand it more than anything. Is where I'll start my conversation on the State of the Union. Where do you come in on that?
Yeah, I sent messages last night to our friends Nikki Kumar, my friend Reed Devaney, which literally said, "I'm going to be cynical for a second." That's how it started, because we try to navigate this, and especially on this show, we try to approach it with a fair amount of perspective and like, where can we find the hope? But yeah, and the comparison that I alluded to off air that I wanted to make, that I think you'll completely understand, is I hate that the State of the Union becomes, whether it's intended to be or not, because I think ceremony has its place. I think that there are things that have its place, and we need to communicate this, but it becomes the equivalent of Bob Iger doing a Disney shareholders meeting. Like, it becomes pure posturing, and we're the shareholders, and it's like, why we will dedicate so much ink, digitally or otherwise, to talking the talk. And he renewed a promise. He rewalked a thing. He reiterated. He reemphasized. He talked about this. He shed light on. He shut down. He fired back at the hecklers. Like, where every time he throws a jab, like, I know you guys can read. Like, yeah, we like that stuff. Like, it's like, but because of everybody having a voice, Nikki, our friend and my wise counsel, was making great points of like, well, it's also because of everybody else. Like, it's not the State of the Union has become the experience of like, it's the thing, and then it's the whole ecosystem of the thing. And when everybody has a voice, then it just becomes, oh, let's zoom in on this person. Oh, let's do this. Like, it takes the aspect of it that is pep rally and emphasizes it to a million, and it doesn't actually do anything. It's not like the State of the Union. Like, maybe if you told somebody about the State of the Union and they didn't know what it was, they would be like, oh, does he like, sign stuff into law or announce executive orders? Does he do? No, it's not. It's so until it doesn't have any functionality. So until we can have some sort of like breakthrough with the way we cover things, it's just going to be a circus.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you explaining your point of view on it again. And like I said, I'm in definitely the same ballpark on you, because it's one of the things that I think over the years has been easy, especially when I was very apolitical. It's easy to point at and go, I don't like pep rallies, right? Same with some of the conventions, right? I don't like pep rallies. I think they're fascinating. I think that the history of the State of the Union, going from a well-written, worded, and worded letter that was read to eventually 100 years later becomes a speech and moment. It's everything that people hate about politics, and everything that people might roll. I roll like Mike Johnson on it, for not calling you Mike Johnson there. I do think, for me personally, there were some great things said. I think there were some great moments. I think some of it was gamemanship. I think they knew that Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to do something, and so let's create these moments. And I saw one commentator say, "Look, the State of the Union is a preview of what's to come, and this is an election year, so even then, it's the trailer for the new season." And I kind of like it from that. And I don't know all of what Nikki's points were. We'll bring Nikki back on to speak for himself at one point in this life. But yeah, it is kind of the thing that could be spread out to the world, both in a good and bad way, right? About, it's the. So I heard another commentator say it's the Super Bowl of politics, meaning not everyone watches the NFL season, but they might tune in for the Super Bowl. And
exactly,
for better or worse, and often worse, that's what it is.
And with all my cynicism, I had the thought of like, well, what are people going to read? Like, unfortunately, no. That's asking a lot of people. If the Biden administration released in print or digital our big update with the presidential seal and everything, like, who's reading that? Who's doing it? Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We also can't do a speech of him just in a room. We can't do a pre-recorded like, this is the only way, unfortunately, for what they're trying to convey. It just is like with most things, I think, and maybe you share this, I'm often bothered in general, politics or otherwise, about like, yeah, no shit type moments. And
Yeah.
so when the reaction is like, and again, to touch on the Jon Stewart of it all from a few episodes ago, and I'm sure our viewers, or if you're new here, we talked about Stewart getting blasted by some Democrats. It's like the reaction of like, he's exceeding expectations. He's doing better than I thought, and all that, like this sigh of relief. It's hard in these times to not be like, yeah, I would fucking hope so. Like, that is the job that requires one of the highest levels of like orator acumen in the world. Like, I would, if you can't convey a point to that degree that can exceed an expectation, a low expectation, then we got a much bigger problem. So yeah, I would hope so. And then strategy, and then from the opposition, you'll have like the response stuff. It's just like insane. But the whole like, and that was a campaign speech. Yeah, that's another like, we got that, buddy. Like, what year do you think this is? Like,
yeah.
I agree with that. That's not a gotcha.
Yeah. I agree with that. And look, I think the sad thing is that JMB in chat is kind of touching on something that I think is true. I do think there's substance in this speech. I listened to all of it finally this morning over a bowl of Honey Bunches of Oats. Great combination. It's underrated cereal and State of the Union. Because I'd only seen the clips last night. I was live on my own show and everything. I think there's things of substance in there. Are they without the nuance or the how it's? But there's policy. There's addressing things. It hit on all the big things. And I think that's what you want. I think I'm not even turned off by it. I think Ken Pluma to comment too. They shouldn't have cutaways. I think that encourages some of the response, and I kind of agree with that. That it turns into more soap opera. I would be love to be invited to the State of the Union, though that probably would mean some tragedy to happen to me. But even some of the guests are very Mike Johnson had NYPD officers who were attacked by migrant criminals. That kind of stuff is what it is all about. Yeah. But like I said, I admit, and anyone chats like, no, there's some great value in here. I don't disagree with you. This is the last arena in which I kind of go, yeah, look, this is the worst part of what everyone thinks politics are. Whether or not that's true, that's the perception.
Yeah, and like with most things of this era that we will talk about and continue to talk about heading toward November, I hate the spot that we're in, and I think I speak for a lot of people in like my age demographic and nationality demographics, I guess, ethnicity demographics, like Puerto Rican people and whatnot. That it sucks to be stuck in the spot that we're stuck in, but it is also reality, and so it's a lot of that too that gets bled into it. So I don't know. Let's enjoy the clip of Biden, like just looking like he just saw, like he just saw a Star Wars Gullet Show for the first time, like he just saw Borg Gullet in theaters for the very first time. Like that was me.
I've watched that clip. I've watched the GIF of it a few times. We're just like, hey, it's the greatest. And I do want to address the rebuttal that every year they put the rebuttals up. And I'll say this too, when it comes to facing a hard truth situation. I don't think anyone. I think it'd be hard pressed to find a great rebuttal to any State of the Union because it's just set up to fail. It is like you have someone doing stand up at a sold out improv, and then the rebuttal's a dude at an open mic with 4 people. Like it's the energy's going to be different, everything. So I think the pile on Senator Katie Britt, the junior senator from Alabama, I think it's a pile on, but it's probably a deserved one. It was a bizarre speech. It was heavy handed. I saw one clip that I agree with. Someone shared a clip of Natalie Portman in May, December, and then they side by side with Katie Britt. They're like, clearly she studied her and thought this is how you win an Oscar and win a speech war, and so and not surprising anything she was saying, but even the setting, the kitchen, the cross on display, her husband who was in the NFL for 3.5 seasons, and he's one of those dudes that wears blue jeans and white polo shirts. You're out of my life if you do that. I know who you are when you dress like that because I used to dress like that when I was that. And it's all just it was cringe. And the final thing I'll say on it is, if you dig into a little bit who she is, she was for a while considered one of the sane ones, which could be taken too far as an insult too as well. I want to speak carefully here, but she was one of the people that worked on the bill that Langford said it's true too when Biden was saying some truths about it, and she just absolutely ditched out on it the moment the Orange Fuhrer asked them all to, demanded they all, and so it just that plays into that theater thing. But I've watched it, Alden. I have to be honest, I watched a lot of it on repeat this morning because it was so bizarre.
It is a weird balancing act between like cult leader, recruiter, and cult victim, which I guess is the story of cults. Like it was like I can't tell if she's orchestrating or if there's like evil people right off camera that are like, it was so uncomfortable. And like you said, just the concept of the rebuttal speech is a thankless, like it's a loser.
It's thankless.
Yeah, you are, by doing it inherently, whoever is doing the rebuttal, whatever side has the rebuttal, immediately like has to walk up like, their head hanging like, oh God, like you just, there's no position where the rebuttal can be like, and we're the righteous ones. Like I guess maybe you can make an argument that like when it's as bad as Donald Trump, that the rebuttal can be the thing we look to, but that's a very unique circumstance.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah. So I said, I'm with you. It is just, it's set up to fail because you have one person in a giant setting going mic drop, and everyone's like, woo, and then quietly someone's like, oh no, that's wrong. And it's just what are we doing at that point? You got fine if you got one, give them the chance, but.
Yep,
it was bizarre. Anyways,
and Bloom here with a Stepford speech.
Yeah, it was.
Kingsport Cow, Cult of Personality lyric. Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It was something. It's one for the history books. A lot of people talk about Bobby Jindal and the walk down the hall, Marco Rubio, and the water sip of doom. But this one takes the cake.
Pretty bad.
That's the swing. There's a lot of things, again, I think, to talk about in it. Policy that either you can agree or disagree. There's things to go, but we're going with the headlines today, Alden, so we can sweep on through to our next conversation.
Indeed. And again, there are things that when things are more like we would love to dive in and do policy talk and all that, like the anti-homeless bill in Florida and like all these things that are going on, that it's just, it's a packed time. And to reiterate, as we do sometimes, it's not that we don't know or that we don't care or that we don't talk about it. It's just for the purposes of today, State of the Union, and now we're going to move. But
it's a show. Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely. Indeed. So, Ken.
Awards.
Awards. Ken, do you like awards for you personally? Where do you keep the Ken Knapsack awards? Is there a shelf?
No, I've got a second place soccer finish. I got a couple baseball participation trophies. I got a first place Little League coach trophy. I got two first place trophies in speech from junior high in humorous interpretation. All right.
Ooh.
Those are at my parents' house, I think.
You were a debate and forensics kid too?
I was not. No, I did not do debate. I did humorous interpretation. I did monologue, stand-ups. And I've addressed this before, and I'll say it here. I don't want to hide it. I won both times on doing word for word interpretations of Bill Cosby routines.
Hey man, so, at the time, gold mine.
At the time, gold mine, because clearly I got 2 pieces of gold for it. Not take the Cosby of it all. Take that out, Alden. The bigger problem was that you had this 12-year-old white kid from the suburbs doing inner city Philadelphia-based characters. That's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah, and we will let your imagination.
No one told me not to.
You know the Muppets Christmas Carol thing of like, who did not die? Yours is, and little Kenny Knapsack, who was not black. Like,
nobody. And the problem was nobody told me, no one thought, which is, again, not a side of the Times, side of the region, side of the beliefs, whatever you want to say. But also, at the same time, in the same year, a friend I did not know till a year or two later, who is still in my life, one of my best friends, He went for Halloween in 8th grade or 7th grade to his school as his favorite baseball player. He dressed up as his favorite baseball player. That's not a problem, Alden, right? Right? Until you realize his favorite baseball player was Darryl Strawberry, and his mom painted his face to match Darryl Strawberry's, and sent him off to school. And no one questioned it. They only took pictures. So my friend has that in his closet. He'll never run for political office.
My heart.
In 7th grade, he was like, "That's my favorite baseball player."
I
didn't think twice.
I will tell a version of that gone right, where there was no accidental blackfacing of children. We had for Black History Month in elementary school. This was, I believe, 3rd grade, and it was everybody come as an iconic Black American, and you have to dress up like them and give a presentation about them. And there was no accidental blackfacing, thank goodness. But you could feel, even as a child, I could perceive I don't know how to articulate this, and I don't think I knew the word articulate when I was that age, but I could tell that because parents could come in or whatever, haha, it was like one of those things. And it was like, I could feel people being like, looking around, like, okay, did we all handle this similarly? I was Ray Charles, by the way. My mom put me in a little suit with sunglasses.
Love it.
And I talked about music. It was a whole thing. But yeah, so I will say, though, on the note of your humorous interpretation, maybe they did change it because, and I don't know how you'll feel about this, they have lumped all of those things under the other NFL, the National Forensics League. So I was a card-carrying competitor. And so it's like debate and all forms of debate, and then oratory and all forms of oratory. And they all go to the same events and everything. So I would be doing like original oratory or extemporaneous speaking or impromptu speaking. And I would see the humorous interp kids, and I would be like, man, I wish I could do humorous interp.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. If you did humorous interpretation, there's a good chance you're going to Boston April 6th to open up for Mark Ellis.
Humorous interp on tour. Pick where it didn't happen. I do not have any Ray Charles Alden photos, unfortunately.
We're going to get to the awards, but some great comments coming in here. Troy says, Ken, I was about to say my best friend dressed up as Mo Vaughn, like the 3rd or 4th grade. Face paint and all, too. Don't remember it being a big deal either, which was part of the problem. The 90s. Yeah, and then the Champs 2005. That's a reference to the Bears. Alden had the same assignment as a kid, dressed up as Walter Payton. No blackface in the early 2000s at my school. Thank God. Thank God some of you had some sense. Unlike my friends now.
I hate that I love it, but I also hate that our comments, even for a second, split into blackface, no blackface. What a horrible thing.
I mean, this is I'm laughing, and my friend and I laugh about it still, but this is when I talk about you where we are now, and how when you hear someone say it was kind of the times, that's not an excuse. It's just this look at the all-encompassing time and era and what was allowed and what was not thought of, and how far we've come doesn't mean we're not still needing to go forward. And I think that I want to always make that part clear, but that's stunning to me. Like my friend and I laugh about it, but we're always like, no adult told him no.
Yeah, it's a laugh shock. It's a laugh like context jolt. Yeah. So that quick aside brought to you by comedians and Black History. And it was so I had awards and that stuff too. In terms of like the speeches and stuff. I had like some trophies for impromptu where you would go and they would give you a little slip of paper and like it would just be a topic and you would have to give a speech on it with like a minute of prep time. Like I love stuff like that. I have some English awards and things. Like my favorite teacher of all time actually invented an award for me because she was obligated to give the award to the highest scoring person, who was my friend Maya, who worked harder than me in high school by a lot. But I was friends with the teacher and I was succeeding in other ways. I had more of like the human, like, you know how I am. I was leading classes the way I lead my Twitter. And so she created the most exceptional literary critic award that was awarded to me and then nullified after I was gone. So it was only ever given out once.
Wow.
So do awards matter? I mean, yeah, when they're tied to memories, like that, we'll start there. Like the overall thesis, I think, for both of us, and we do, we don't pre-plan our discussions, but we touch base, and we both realized, oh yeah, we kind of feel the same about this, which is they don't if they don't, and they do when they absolutely do, on a business level and on an emotional level. They don't if they just are flat for you, and sometimes the ones that matter to me won't matter to you or anyone, and vice versa.
I really agree with you on that. We are, of course, having this topic because of this coming Sunday. We got the Academy Awards broadcast. That's not something I'll probably be tuning in for, but I know you will, and you're probably we're going to do some maybe some other things here on the Anytime channel next week, right? We're trying to put something together where you'll lead.
Yeah.
But I used to watch it. I used to be the guy who had the little score sheet and taking prop bets and all that stuff, and I think it's fun, and I think it's okay to just have that relationship with it too. That it's it's something you enjoy. It's movies. So therefore, our multiple truths angle. I don't think they mean anything. It's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, of all the Hall of Fames, it's a weird, super subjective, bizarre. How can you put musical artists into a Hall of Fame? That's it's always been a kind of bizarre concept to me. But yet, when someone's in, you're like, oh, that's cool. It's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. It's different than sports. I come from a sports background. I love competition, and I always say, though, I think we as a society have long forgotten that the win or the loss isn't necessarily the point. It's part of the goals, but it's the journey there. And I think I do like the idea of art being rewarded, but it comes down to this oddly, it's ingrained in our society going back hundreds of years. I get it, and it's not going to become untangled. It is competition, and competition in art. It doesn't always need to go hand in hand, and it not always should go hand in hand. And that's where I'll start. But there's some positives, and I think some awards and some nominations are tremendously important.
Yeah, it becomes an interesting discussion of, when does, it's human intention. We want to celebrate the stuff that moved us. We, 90, I think this is the 98th edition, 98 years of, 90 years ago, there's this idea of like, hey, what if we all who love this and are professionals in this said these people that are at the top, like if we celebrate, like I get it, but then it becomes the competition. Like today, before we went on air, there's a story in the Hollywood Reporter that the dog actor, Messi, the dog from Anatomy of a Fall, who was been on the awards circuit because he's an adorable dog, and why wouldn't you want that? And he's honest to God, the most well-trained dog I've ever seen in a film. He has a scene, Ken, that like I showed it to my mother. My mother was like, "Oh my God!" Like it looks like he's going to die, and they've taught him how to do that. It's like it's amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
And he gives an amazing performance. Today it came out that they don't want him at the Oscars, that he won't be attending because of and the Academy did not comment, of course, but there are studio people that have competing films that are like, oh, that the dog being there is giving them an unfair advantage during the voting window. And like you people are the ones that are ruining this shit. Like the dog gave people something to bond over while they're stressed. So it's like, that's just dumb as hell. And that's where we lose the plot. Crazy. But the joy has to overpower it. Like, that's why it's always nice when someone shouts out the people in their category or makes the point of like, it's not just us that are nominated. Like there's so much good work this year. You always love that because it's true. But the reason why these things matter, let's start on a business level, because that's the reality. Any sort of blank nominee that you can put before your name is currency in the job market. It's currency within a job you already have. If you are needing to stand up for yourself, if you're needing to ask for certain things, if you're needing to advocate for any direction in terms of yourself or your team, that's important, like that really is important. Like she's not here, so I'm not going to speak for her, but our friend Ash Crossan just posted her Emmy that she won. She just received it. And it's like, that will add to her resume. I think it's fair to say that without even having talked to her about it. Like Emmy Award winner Ash Crossan is different than Ash Crossan who we like. Like that's to the people that are doing hiring. And that happens, across the board. Like that is like I remember a completely different field, but like when Taika Waititi got hired at Marvel, people were like, oh, they're hiring the vampire comedy guy to do this. But people forget he'd already been an Academy Award nominee in the short film category. Doesn't matter that it was the short film category because he can say Academy Award nominee.
Right.
And so this really does matter, particularly for both of those examples, marginalized communities, women in the industry, people of color in the industry. That matters for sure.
Yeah, that's where I was starting to end it, and now pick that up. I think the awards, again, represent so much of the time and so much of where we need to be and want to go and where we are. And that's what the push in the last couple of years is to simply put, diversify the nominees. That is a all-encompassing umbrella statement, I know, but it's important. And that's when I think it does become important, where you've seen some of the first wins or first win since, right? Like all those kind of barrier breaking wins we've seen the last couple of years are important because of the simple symbol that was before of all, and it's still a problem, right? Of all I don't know this year's nominees as well, but like historically, 5 white male directors, right? Every once in a while, we'll let Spike Lee come in, all that kind of stuff, and it's the old guard, and they needed to do a change in the guard. So therefore, that's when I do think it matters now for that. And that's why I will never take too much cynicism towards them, even though I'm not super engaged with the awards right now. Business-wise, you're absolutely right. This stuff matters. That's the dark side of it, I think, because it is a business thing. Because you go to the perhaps the most famous of it all, of all the campaigns, the Shakespeare in Love campaign over Saving Private Ryan. I like both films. I saw Shakespeare in Love, I think, twice in the theaters. That was the height of Ken goes to the movies. But Saving Private Ryan felt more important to me at the time. And I'm not even saying that's a perfect film. I'm just saying that seemed more important to me at the time. And the cynicism sets in with the Hollywood Walk of Fame, right? When the first time you ever learn that those stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the ones mostly covered in trash and piss, those stars are usually put there because a organization came together to pay for them. The first time I ever discovered that, it just was like, oh, that seems a little, I don't know. That means less to me, right?
It took the magic out, especially because now you can I think Mark Hamill got his star pre-Last Jedi, so it was like it's obviously a promo tactic. You can start to line up stars with releases of projects, and that's weird. So yeah, when you do understand the business side, it starts to. It can, like you said, it can be the dark side, even if we are also knowing that these people now have the leverage to do their thing, especially, first time breakthrough people from different communities that wouldn't have gotten their chances or negotiation power, like how Margot Robbie has set up her production company, Lucky Chap, at Warner. And it's like, you're damn right you're going to let me set up here for whatever I want after what we just pulled. You're going to treat me with respect, despite the fact that I'm sure a lot of them just look at her like this blonde model that appears in their stuff sometimes. And it's like, no, I did this. And so that's cool. And then there's the emotionality of it. The stuff that actually moves people in the same, which is where I think it probably has much closer crossover with sports. The sports having literal wins and losses makes it easier to quantify who has a Hall of Fame career and who can negotiate what. So their business side is a lot more concrete. This stuff, though, when someone is moved to tears by, that final point, that touchdown, that basket, whatever, it is very similar. When I'll use a recent example. I can work myself up into tears just thinking about Ke Huy Quan's Oscar. For Everything Everywhere All at Once, especially that moment of that movie then getting Best Picture at the end of the night, and it being Harrison that read the card, and them hugging on stage, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And shorty. Yeah, so that moment that's because we're invested in a human story. We're not invested, even if I love the film, but even if you don't, you're witnessing somebody who was, it's the refugee story all the way to I thought I was going to be never cast again, and I thought I lost this dream, and now I have this dream. That's why we like this stuff, because we see ourselves and we see people that we know.
I love what you say, because this is where I come down to it. It's the what does Jerusalem mean? Nothing and everything moment that I reference so many times in conversations from Kingdom of Heaven, because it's I just absolutely love that moment for many different reasons, both in movie and out. Of that is the answer. You talk about the cynical business side, and realizing that the campaigns and some of it's underhanded and dirty, surprise, shocker in Hollywood. I know, it's all that, and you can get lost in that. It's not unlike my view on politics now. Of you could definitely get cynical. It definitely seems like both sides don't have your best interest in heart, and there's some truth to that. However, there's moments and there's reasons to get involved. We talked about some of the big kind of symbolism behind some of the reasons that we need, but now you talk about the personal stories, and I go to sports. Does sports matter? Absolutely not. It's completely silly. What a concept we have. But what does it mean? Everything, man. And I always say, people who don't love sports, God bless you. But I also think you're missing out on some of the biggest human stories that history has ever produced in sports. And they move you beyond any way possible when you're engaged, when you're into it. And when you're not angry that your team's losing, you're throwing things through windows, which is a whole nother problem and everything. Because I think there's the wrong emphasis is often put on sports, and of course, but that's the way life is. So what you're talking about, even last year, I didn't watch the Oscars, but I tuned in to see Short Round win. Right, that meant everything to me. And then you hear his story, and Ke Huy Quan it comes. I don't even think comeback is the word. That has the full meaning for me, right? It is just this magical, important story that has changed a life, that kind of thing. Brendan Fraser coming back from having people like me make fun of him on Schmoes, not knowing the whole story of what was going on with him in his career. And just the fact that he got older, he got bigger, he changed, he wasn't the heartthrob he was, and now here he is. That means a lot. And I think I want people, even someone like me who's probably not going to tune in, or at least not with both eyes, just have fun with the moments it creates. That's why they stand out throughout the course of history.
Absolutely. Real quick comment from our friend Nikki. Sports, the most important, least important thing in life. I like that. That's good stuff. That's a book. Nikki, start writing. Yeah, it's absolutely that. And similarly, like what you talked about with sports, like wins and losses, like it's stories. When people ask us, I'm sure you've had this question a billion times over your years. Oh, why do you like wrestling if it's predetermined? Because that's not about that. It's not about the wins and losses. It is literally a story medium. And so similarly with these, like Nikki and I off air will constantly talk about speeches or send each other clips, and like Steven Spielberg announcing Return of the King's Best Picture, opening the envelope. It's a clean sweep. Like it's not because that validated Lord of the Rings to me. It's because somebody that Peter Jackson looked up to celebrated what he had done, celebrated and in a genre that is often looked down upon. So what we want are comebacks. We want underdog stories. We want the last ride. We want the long overdue. We want to feel those things, like Robert Downey Jr. not getting it for Chaplin, and he will say I was too young and all that stuff, and I didn't know what I was doing. And the fact that he's probably about to get it on Sunday, barring a shocking turn of events, is like, damn, like there's the bow on the whole thing.
Yeah, and I agree with the overall statement. Like, this is what I also say, do art need awards? No, absolutely not. It's so subjective, and I see comments about that here too. It's subjective, but that's so Ke Huy Quan's ride to the Oscars, it doesn't lose any validity if he doesn't win. The story's still valuable. The career comeback or rise or whatever you want to call it is still valuable and still emotional. But it creates these pop culture moments that I think it's okay, as well as the pomp and circumstance. And yes, sometimes it's even with what's going on in the world now, right? You got red carpets and dresses and suits and fashion, and you always have horrible things, not just going on in the world. You got horrible things going right around the corner off of Hollywood, Franklin, and Orange Avenue, like right around the corner. You got encampments. I can take you to them now, right? It's what it is. But I think it's okay to take these moments. I think it's okay. We all like to doll up every now and then, and that's part of the fun and part of the hoopla. And that's where at the end of the day, I that's some of the value in it.
Yeah, I had to pull up to make sure I got the year right, but it reminds me of Sally Field's iconic speech. which is often misquoted as "you
It
like
is
me, you
often
really like
misquoted.
me."
Yeah.
I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me, and
Right.
that's places in the heart, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that kind of sums it up. Like it wasn't the gold, it wasn't any of that. It was just like the admiration from peers does matter. Like it
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
people realize it or not, because it's a collaborative medium, just like how
Yeah.
sports is a collaborative endeavor. Like these are things that the respect almost matters more, which is, we've touched on wrestling
Yeah.
a few times already, but that, like, in a way that I haven't, because you've been in these locker rooms and you've experienced what people have said. Like Eddie Kingston, cut a promo this past weekend where talking to Danielson saying, like, not gold, not wins, not anything, but like you guys respecting me matters more. And like, yeah, in character, but that's also true.
Yeah.
And I love Lauren's comment. Can't tell me the Detroit Lions of 2023 did not impact the entire city and the emotions it gave people. Yeah, and that was not cemented in any type of award.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
fell short of the Super Bowl, but it
does
changed
that
the
mean
city.
the award didn't matter?
Yeah.
No, but it's just
No.
so both are true. Again, it's such a sliding scale, and we try to get on people who think they do matter, and it's like, yeah, but they're the people doing it. Like we will once again bring up Bradley Cooper. There's like some Vox article. It's like no one wants to win an Oscar as badly as Bradley Cooper. And it's just like, yeah, if I performed on that level and was, learning at the feet of De Niro when I was in college and then getting to work with him and becoming all the things that I've become and doing everything I've done, I would like to win one. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I saw Laserbolt has a comment here who is also a Detroit Lions fan, so he knows the impact of not just the team but the city. It's human nature to want to compete that drives us forward. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with the competition is a fire that forges that we're all forged in, and it's a good thing. That's why I can understand some of the principles of a free market society that people hold on to, often to damage to a lot of society. But I understand where it starts from. It's not about dominating. It is truly about, can I be better? And someone in Dylan Berry says, hey, if Anytime was nominated for an award, would that be exciting? Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of times over the years where there's been Star Wars podcast awards. Some of them put on by, I don't know, people with like 100 followers on social media, and some of them like legit or whatever you want to, I'm not saying those are legit, but you know what I mean? Like some bigger, like, or Force Center's never been on there. Force Center's never had that, but and that doesn't make Force Center ever less. But like you naturally want to be like, hey, I'm putting a lot into this. Does it mean anything? And sometimes if that can be something you see on a shelf, I take no guilt or shame in wanting that every now and then.
Yeah, I think
it's
so like, I don't want to say disingenuous. Maybe that's harsh, but it's just weird to me whenever someone is like, no, but it doesn't matter. And like, why do you care if you this? Because it's like we don't. None of us know why we're here. Not to get super big and heady. A lot of people think they do, and a lot of people believe they do, and like that's beautiful, and I love that. But like genuinely, we don't. We look for meaning in everything. We look for meaning in things as small as, I always eat this at this time because of this reason, or we always do this, our traditions, everything. That's just a part of us. We are looking for meaning. And so when you throw your all into something, like that matters. Like, on the podcast side of it, Octo Radio, my Star Wars show, hasn't won awards, but without me knowing, I didn't know this until it was published, it got named as one of Nerdist's top 9 Latin podcasts. Or not that it's a Latin podcast, but a podcast run by a Latin person of any kind, a Latinx individual. And given that I am Latino, contrary to the way it may seem, it was nice. It was like, wow, because that meant that I was being counted amongst my own in a certain way. And that was like, oh, people are seeing this even in a way that I, as Americanized as I am not seeing it. And that inspired me to be like, I should lean more in, not in a businessy way, because that's weird, but in a, I should
who you are.
Remind people. I should say that. I should embrace my last name. I should collaborate more and try to. So there are little things that pop up in that way. I mean, we know people that have that have won awards, like we mentioned, Ash, and it makes it's
several,
nice to see that become the thing. You know, I talked to Mark Bernardin on the day that the Oscar nominations came out, and he was glowing because he's one of his best friends is Cord Jefferson, who wrote American Fiction and directed it, and it's like that's just cool. You know, sometimes you get that disingenuous, like, bullshit version of "I'm so happy for them." That happens a lot in our business.
Sure.
But sometimes it's real, you know.
Sometimes it's real. I did vote against you in any poll that came out during that time, but I will admit to that. Sorry. No.
It's okay.
Yeah. Love all that. And the champ says the real award is watching a movie that moves you. Yeah, there's that too. And PLD is here. It says, as a Ed Harris stan, I always say awards don't mean crap. It doesn't change my view of what I think is worth championing. Then he says, I do reserve the right to change my mind if Ed Harris wins an Oscar.
I love the honesty in that, because that's what I've said for years. I said it in high school and like after high school a lot. Like, I hate the Oscars until next year when there's a chance that I feel good. Like that's the joke version of it, but that's true.
And I think sometimes I think what had started to turn me off to a lot of the award discussions and stuff in our circle, meaning the circle I've been working in and out for the last 12 years, is when the nominations comes out and who's been snubbed and all that's a tiring conversation, because for most of the time you have only 5 choices out of a field of sometimes literally thousands, and that's just going to naturally happen. And I think that might be the sports side too. Losses are a part of life. Not getting into the inner circle is part of life, and I think after a while I got exhausted with those conversations. But I understand the passion behind it, so that's why I think go back to the end of the day. Yeah, have some fun with that. And I do want to address JMB says, I want to see you compete over at Matt Nose and Andy's music trivia show for all the suffering inflicted on movie trivia. I did compete. I've been on that show twice, and I asked them to stop inviting me because I don't know any music scores for movies other than occasional scores.
It's scores. Okay.
Settle the score. It was
music trivia in general. I was like, oh, Ken would crush at that. But
no, it's Settle the Score. It's a great show. Matt Nose is an absolute wonderful grump, and Andy Merriweather is a super talented cat. So check out the show, Settle the Score on YouTube. Ken Plume would be great for that too, because you have to be able to recognize a song by a note, and I got nothing on that.
That's hard. Yeah, that gets.
JMB says, that's aimed at PLD. Well, PLD should be on it too.
Oh, PLD, but we could team up. Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to invite us to as a pair, we'll give you a pair rate. No,
I just David McKay says he's 1-0 in Settle the Score. God bless you. I couldn't do it. Right. Occasionally I got a couple right. Anyway, so I don't get too far off on that pass. Saw that comment that was
no, absolutely. Nikki brought up the sports connection again here too. Sports fandom helped me deal with disappointing endings in TV film. Not winning a championship doesn't negate the emotions of the whole season. Same way a finale can't really ruin memories of a show. And yeah, like, look, to turn this into Casterly talk for just a second, I actually had Thrones in my mind, not because of that, but it reminds me, and it's true on both levels. When people say things like, "Oh, ruin the whole thing for me. I can never go back." I just feel bad for you. Like I no longer have the patience for that hyperbole. Okay, like, I don't know what you want me to say to that. Sorry, you can't appreciate it anymore. Sorry that your memories are that fragile, I guess. But then
I'm starting to see why some people don't like you, Alden.
I'm so past patience for the absurd, like, and it was never good, or it sucks. It's like I have pity for that. That's all I got.
Yeah.
The other element is that, what did Tyrion Lannister say to much controversy in that finale? What binds us? What holds us together? What unites us? Not money, not thrones or armies, stories. And everybody was like, "Oh, that's just them patting themselves on the back." Well, guess what? I don't give a shit if that's true, because in character, and by the way, I don't believe it is. I do think it is something that Tyrion would say, for the record. But he's right, and that's what we're touching on here. Like, it is entirely stories. It is that, whether it's this just made someone, whether this just validated someone. Earlier in the comments, Ken Plume, I'm gonna try to find it. I should have started, but he brought up how Oh yeah, in the business, how it can also create a narrative of how the business is changing on a real level. It's important to understand the non-creative business of show is incredibly risk-averse and desperate for sure things. Awards provide leverage and an excuse for executives to make decisions. So then it's like, oh, Barbie did this, Oppenheimer did this, so different. Barbenheimer, wow. Oh, over here this happened, over here this happened. Maybe we can do these things. Validating decades upon decades upon decades of work in sci-fi fantasy through the win of Return of the King started it, and then that's been forever, and then Shape of Water comes around. Okay, that's pretty weird. Then Everything Everywhere. Oh, okay, wow, like genre is really being treated fairly. Like those stories matter, and I don't know. I guess this is a nice follow-up in a way to our previous episode about sentimentality and emotion being cool. I just resent the notion that this doesn't matter because it's rich people. That's a cheap out. That's a cheap out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even true. Most of the time, honestly. And then
you think those screenwriters, all of them get nominated or are heading back to their 16-room mansions?
They're in the balconies.
They are not. I can tell you they are not.
They got balcony seating. So it's
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, be empathetic to the fact that everybody likes to be validated. Like this episode's called Do Awards Matter in Art? Yes, but like, does Employee of the Month matter? I don't know. Maybe when that employee had a shitty fucking month, maybe then it does.
Yeah.
As
someone who used to hand out Employee of the Month awards, you find the person who, truly, truly deserves it. And sometimes you just have to turn it into HR before noon. But it's multiple truths. No, great conversation as we transition out of it. I actually love hearing you discuss it more. Someone who I know is super interested in this stuff more than I am right now, but I used to be. And the reasons at the end of the day why I was really into the Oscars and the Golden Globes and the award season as a film file back then was just it was fun. And there's bigger things to ask about it and bigger questions that maybe need answers. All those things. Yep. Got it. But for me, at the end of the day, it was fun to watch, fun to have memories created by it, and fun to see people moved by their accomplishments being acknowledged.
I have one final Oscars question for you. And it is regarding the broadcast that is coming up.
Okay.
Will you and your fiance, Grace, be tuning in, not for the whole show, but will you be watching Ryan Gosling's I'm Just Ken live?
Probably not, no.
Will you watch it after?
Yes. Oh, I'll watch the clips. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'll fire up the PS5.
Because this is your moment in a lot of ways. He's singing to you.
It's my moment. Yeah, singing to me. I'll fire the PS5. Usually I put on some Madden or some MLB The Show, and that's when I listen to my news or my YouTube shows, and that's when I'll watch it. I don't even know. I canceled YouTube TV. I had it for the NFL season. So I can't even really watch it live unless do they broadcast it anywhere on YouTube or now?
It's really annoying, man.
Why is it Disney? Is it on ABC this year?
It's always on ABC. Well, not always. It has been on ABC for the longest time now. Okay. They've got the broadcast
Put it on
right.
Disney Plus. I'm now paying like $50 a month, Iger. A month.
And
Iger,
they don't.
Come on.
But guess what? Disney Plus in Europe, at least in a lot of European countries, it's there. So SAG is on Netflix, and the Globes, I think, were on Paramount, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But we can't get this one on the one that we own. It's very annoying.
It's annoying. Yeah. It's annoying. And that's where we are. Well, but this conversation wasn't. If you have any thoughts on it down below, or just share some of your favorite memories of Oscars that you watched and people that you were rooting for that won.
Or awards you've won.
Did you win the spelling bee in 5th grade? We want to know. I think Dylan Barry says that he won a spelling bee. I got the attendance award pencil. I got a pencil that I still have in storage of my 2nd grade attendance being exemplary. All right.
Hell yeah. I had perfect attendance from day 1 of kindergarten to the day I graduated as a senior. I never missed a day of school.
I barely missed days. Braces one day. And then you know what I got? I got braces, and then I got a butterscotch milkshake and SummerSlam 89 on VHS to watch. It was a great day.
All right. I love that for you. That was good. You like slipped back into that memory like that was a happy place for you.
Watching the Brainbusters versus Demolition, I love butterscotch milkshakes. There's a great one at Mel's Diner. I'll take Nikki. You're gonna hate that you don't live here soon.
I know.
So good.
I do already. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right. We do have some entertainment stories we want to touch upon here. And Alden, I do think we should start with a tribute to someone that we lost.
Yes. So yesterday, around the same time as the State of the Union, it was a very split internet at the moment because there was all that, but then we lost a great, doesn't even begin to describe it honestly. The creator of Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama, passed at 68. Um, Toriyama Sensei, as a lot of people have been calling him with a lot of love, or Toriyama-san, like he was, to put it in some sort of perspective that maybe is more universal, or at least more, let's just say it, white American. The sort of like the Stan Lee of manga in that way, or sort of like a George Lucas-esque figure in terms of the reach of his empire and the reach of his storytelling and his characters. Worked on so many different projects, but of course is most famous for the Dragon Ball universe, that later becomes Dragon Ball Z, just the most iconic iteration. And the story of not just never giving up, but continuous improvement, and a protagonist that we all watched as kids, and his character Goku, who it's become even like a thing we joke about, that Goku doesn't even want to fight bad guys unless the bad guys are also at their best. Like it's a power fantasy in the most wholesome way. A very Superman-esque. There are a lot of shared things between the stories of Superman and Dragon Ball. And it was to see everybody talk about the influence that he had on them, on their careers. Friends of ours like Andres Cabrera, who posted about how much the Latin communities and Latinos love Dragon Ball Z, and it's true. It's just huge in terms of the anime as well. People talking about how it affected their careers, that his world opened the door, that their love for his creations got them in. People like our friend Emma Fife, like just people like that are in this nerd world of a certain age, of like, early 20s to maybe mid 30s. It was just so fundamental, and it was a long saga that is still going in its various forms, and it was all joy and unabashed weirdness and fun, and he impacted everybody, and is the standard, the benchmark. And I just wanted to share this quote from Ichiro Oda, who is the creator of One Piece, which is also obviously huge, but he's just in that next age bracket down where he could look up to Toriyama. He had a long statement translated into English, so there's a little bit of grammatical stuff that we can't account for because of grammatical differences. And it just said, "I am just happy to see the aloof man himself again, because we love him on a blood level. With respect and gratitude for the creative world he has left behind, I pray for his soulful rest in peace. May heaven be the joyous world he envisioned." So classy and true. That in Star Wars they joke like, "Oh, does death even matter in Star Wars because people come back?" Dragon Ball Z is leans so far into that death doesn't matter. And they know that. Like, friendship overpowers death, love overpowers death, fatherhood overpowers death. And so to see the guy that did all those things get his flowers now, it's hard to say, 68, like what could he have done with 10, 20 more years? But rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Well said, sir. I know. You talk about the age. Yeah, I'm a little aged out, but I've just been surrounded by people that world means so much. You included. Yeah, you mentioned Andres Cabrera, Emma Fife, and others. So well said, and rest in peace, indeed.
Yeah, huge, stuff. Great, huge. It's like the impact, like the amount of childhood memories of playing those Dragon Ball games, or reading those books, or watching the show. And just like it became part of our language. Like we did our generational Q&A where like I threw a lot of SpongeBob at you, and it was very funny. But like Dragon Ball's sort of the same way, where like you can tell someone in my age group like which character you identified with, and it just immediately says a lot. I love this. Michael McCarcel bringing up Oda also mentioned how he felt the first time Toriyama called him a friend. Yeah, Matty Gunner. As in the comments, Goku never wanted to kill. He wanted to fight to show improvement, and not just himself, but his adversaries. But he would show mercy even to the most evil of his enemies. Yes, people that tried to literally eat Goku become part of the friend group, because It's just that kind of. It's a space opera, but it's also an absurdist. Like you just accept it because like it's very pulpy in that way. Like and like I don't know if you can use pulp for something that's not American. That's weird. I'd have to ask someone who knows more. But yeah, like animals talk and
Yeah.
there's magical beans and stuff. It's weird, but it's amazing. And yeah, I'm glad we had him.
Absolutely. Like I said, well said, my friend. Well said. So from that heartfelt tribute, leading our news entertainment news segment, you got some other things here that are not as well. Yeah, they're frustrating.
Yeah, I got one story. We touch on this a lot. It's almost like an ongoing segment now. Like, how are execs ruining things? I'll have to workshop a name for it. Someone can make a nice graphic. Warner Brothers, who perhaps you might have heard of, they have a games division that includes mega intellectual properties such as the DC Universe, the Wizarding World, etc. I'm honestly surprised that they have not greenlit a Barbie title. Maybe they're working on one in secret. But it is like so baffling to me to see the decisions. So there's the difference between your AAA, like sit down, play, everything included, single player experiences, and then live service where it's like constantly being updated, et cetera, et cetera. And the Warner Brothers Discovery CEO and president of streaming and games, JB Parrott, has announced that they want to pivot into live service, which has its place, but should not be the domineering thing. And nobody wants this. No one I know is like, yay, this is the future. And it's baffling to me because, and this quote right here from him is just like, it's like he's saying two different things at the same time. And people will applaud and clap, and the shareholders will be happy about this. And it blows my mind. He says, that's a great business when you have a hit like Hogwarts Legacy, the Harry Potter game. It makes the year look amazing. Unfortunately, we also have disappointments. We just released Suicide Squad this quarter, which was not as strong. It just makes it very volatile. So he literally says the single player game is a success. For context, it sold 22 million copies. Smash of the highest order. Smash hit. And the live service one that we just released is a failure. And so we're going to lean into live service. I do not understand it. And he adds Hogwarts Legacy, rather than just launching a one and done console game, how do we develop a game around, for example, Hogwarts or Harry Potter that is a live service where people can live and work and build and play in that world on an ongoing basis? Yeah, MMOs have their place. Things like that have their place. But why are you going to pivot away from games games are when they're succeeding? And I bring this all up to say this. CEO evidently is the only job where you can say things that make no fucking sense, even to a child. Even to a child would be like, but you said that one was bad.
Yeah.
And that's the one you want? And, this fictional 5-year-old that I've invented for our show. And
he's a very smart kid.
He's a smart kid. He's reading the trades. And it's like, I don't and then you get rewarded for that. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
So that was more of a rant than a news story.
I always say I play the games. I don't understand the game industry, and everything you're saying makes sense. Everything he's saying, just from the two quotes here, doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know much more about the issue. We're always welcome to have people comment in a constructive way about what they think about the game industry. But it just seems like with the layoffs again, all these, it's weird decisions after weird decisions, or tragic decisions. I see in chat a lot of people are referencing what WBD did this week by essentially shuttering Rooster Teeth, a successful brand of 21 years. And look, you have to acknowledge some of the Rooster Teeth stuff wasn't as people had been switched out, the next generations of people. There was also some very problematic people around that caused
allegations,
problems. There's a lot going on, but that wasn't the reason. It was because they had acquired it and had no idea what to do with it, and we're trying to sell it. It's a piece to move around the board. And people I know someone who was pretty high up, who used to work with the Defy Media Screen Junkies, and he and I talked 3 weeks ago, and he was like, this is coming. We're waiting for the day you show up and they say your key cards, give us your key card. And it's just lives affected by shareholder-based decisions and all that kind of stuff. It's frustrating. Continues to be frustrating.
It's frustrating because there's the myth, and this is a whole other show, so I will keep this short. The myth of the singular genius also expands into business, and it's like the myth of the CEO as leader. The CEO being a leader is something that maybe was true at a time, but now they're just like really terrible PR spin people 90% of the time. I'm not saying they don't do things. I don't want to be reductive and be like, they just talk. Like, I'm sure Bob Iger has paperwork to do. Like, I'm sure. even if someone is sliding it across his desk for him and he's just signing. But it's like, how, like, in any job that I've ever had, if I declared what the worst strategy was with proof and then said, and that's the one I'm doing, I would be looked at like a moron. Yeah. And I would not be rewarded with more and more bonuses and things. And it's broken. It's broken.
I think, you need the position in these structures. I'm like always, I'm hopeful for someone to do it well. And there's probably been examples of it done well in the past, right? I will say that to back what you're saying, but we don't want to be simply reductive.
The CEO of Morning Drive Media is great.
I'm killing it. I'm killing it.
He's on it.
Please donate now, but links down below. But it just continues to be frustrating. It continues. I think the collection of emperors have no clothes. The curtain's been pulled back and all this stuff, and it's frustrating. Though you do got me thinking. That it's 12:16 my time. Bob Iger right now is in his desk down the street, not too far from where I live. I think he's finishing up paperwork. He's sending an email, and he's sliding back from his desk, and he's looking at his other friends, and he's like, Denny's for lunch? Anyone want it? And he's going down the street to Denny's. That's the day of the life of a CEO. I'm convinced of it. You convince me. He's off Scott Avenue in Verdugo. And there's a Denny's there, and he's like, "Let's go to Denny's." I'm buying. I bet, or he probably says, this week it's you, John. I'll get you next week.
And he gets to Denny's, and he's like, "Where's the Han Solo menu?" And they're like, "Sir, we actually that was not permanent. you guys didn't invest enough for that to be permanent."
What? But I watched Jedi Council. I wanted to try the Han Solo flapjacks,
which, like, the honestly,
Blaster Burger
rocked. Han Solo menu rocked. Anyway,
I like
it was great. Hobbit menu, top tier. Again,
the Hobbit menu.
Food episodes are coming because they always come up and we're always happy about it.
They always come up around me. I love the Hobbit menu because we would go to the Denny's in Northridge after the MPW shows, the Millennium Pro Wrestling shows. So we'd be at Denny's at like 1 a.m. And I had like a Frodo Scramble or whatever the hell it was called. No, it would be the Bilbo. It would be the Bilbo. Sorry, excuse me. It'd be the Bilbo Scramble or something. God, is a great food memory.
Hell yeah. So we're going to put down best food promotional tie-ins as a discussion, and then fast food bracket is still incoming.
It's all there. All there. Well, it's been another fun conversation day, at least on our end. You let us know if it was on your end by giving us a like, subscribing to the channel. More things coming here. Stay tuned. Alden, without over-promising, what are you teasing next week, coming out of the weekend for Oscar coverage?
Yes, there will be some sort of post-game breakdown discussion and everything that I'm going to have, probably at least Nikki on and maybe some other people. I was going to do a live show during it, didn't work out schedule wise. And honestly, like, just to pull back the curtain a little bit, I don't think that what we do here is like, let's sit and hang with dead air until something happens and me try to fill 3 hours. Like, I don't think anyone wants that. So nor do I. So it's like, but we're going to do something. You're going to get to hear me monologue about how much I love Robert Downey Jr., I'm sure, and how much I know way too much about that man's life. And so it'll be fun. So look forward to that, and look forward to the return of news once Ken has the time. But Ken, do not feel bad about it because make that money.
There's two things in my life on hiatus: my news segments and Pop Rockin' Radio. I'm going to be away from Pop Rockin' Radio for the next couple of weeks. I'll put out a post about that. So the 5 of you who still enjoy my show live when I play the radio tunes, but a lot of you listen after, I'll be there. But in that vein, we do want to bring, as always, our Pop Rock Word of Wisdom to leave on, sponsored by my show, Pop Rockin' Radio on Mixcloud. Go to mixcloud.com/Pop Rockin' Radio, no G in Rockin', and hang out with us while we play some tunes. We had a great oldies, quote-unquote oldies show a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. But Alden, this one's yours. What do you got? And it looks like we're going to one of our queens.
One of our queens, the first person to have 2 Pop Rockin' Radio lyrics on this show. I checked. I went through all of them today to see if we'd had her again. We went to Caught in the Middle last time. This time we will go to Paramore's The News with Not Ken's news. Paramore's The News with Haley Williams, of course. Fantastic. I believe that was the gold outfit from the LA Forum shows. If I know my Haley well enough.
You do.
And this right here, The News, very relevant. It was my State of the Union pick.
There you
go. A war on the far side, on the other side of the planet. And I've got a war right behind my eyes, right behind them, just like a headache. So I turn on the news, turn off the news. Every second our collective hearts break. Altogether, every single head shakes. Shut your eyes, but it won't go away. Turn on, turn off the news. Every second our collective heart breaks. Altogether, every single head shakes. Shut your eyes, but it won't go away. Turn on, turn off the news.
The news. Well said.
Which might be cynical, but hey, there's some good life advice in there. There's also a turn off.
I don't know if it's a cynical. It's a reality. It's a reality.
It is reality, but more of a commentary from a really bubbly person that we could all afford to be more like.
Who has changed and grown over the years to understand her place in the world and what she can say and mean to those in it. And that's why I am Team Haley here, and I know you are as well.
Indeed. Haley Williams, the official rock star of Anytime with Ken and Alden.
That's right. All right. We are getting on out of here. Thanks for everyone who's listening. Subscribe if you want to. Like if you can. And don't forget, if you want to listen to us on the podcast side, you can catch us over there. One final time, I'll plug that I'll be in Boston April 6th with my buddy Mark Ellis. Oh, we can't wait to check into a hotel and see what lobby water they have. Tickets are at markellis.live or kennapsock.com. That is it. We'll see you next time, friends. Bye.